Do you ever notice how some politicians forget who actually votes for them? Because what's about to unfold on LBC makes that crystal clear. Before we dive in, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Nick Ferrari sits down with Nigel Farage, and while he laughs off tough questions on immigration and culture, one thing's obvious. Ignoring a major part of Britain's voters isn't confidence. It's a blind spot.
Chris is in Richmond. Chris, you're through to Nigel Farage. Morning.
Morning, Nigel. Morning, Nick.
Morning.
Nigel, are you prepared to unequivocally condemn Donald Trump's remarks yesterday suggesting that Sadiq Khan wanted to impose Sharia law in London? Yes or no, please?
He didn't say Sadiq Khan wanted to impose Sharia law in London, and he was very careful.
Let Mr. Farage, I will come back to this.
I listened to that, and he said it very carefully, but on his... By the way, very important, Chris, with Trump.
Here's where the cracks really start to show. Nick Ferrari points out something simple. And no one's being harmed, what's the issue? To drive it home, he mentions the Jewish Beth Din courts, which have quietly operated in the UK for decades. No controversy, no outrage, just coexistence. But Nigel Farage's response? He praises the Jewish system for working beautifully, then turns around and warns that Muslim Sharia councils are somehow a threat. Two systems, same purpose. One celebrated, the other condemned. That's not about law. That's about perception. And perception fuels fear, Nigel insists one faith. Never tries to impose its will on others. But that's selective memory. Because power, influence, and belief have always shaped society from every side. Nick exposes what's really happening here. Bias wrapped in principle. When identical practices are judged through different lenses, it stops being about justice. It becomes about fear, politics, and control. And that's when the whole argument falls apart.
Explain the distinction there, then.
So he makes a comment, and you might disagree with the tone, you might disagree with the context, you might disagree with the number that he puts out, but you'll find that what he has to say has a point. My last understanding, Chris, there were 85 Sharia courts operating in this country at some level.
Civil level, by the way.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, but operating at some level in this country. So is he right to say that Sharia is an issue in London? Yes. Is it an overwhelming issue at this stage? No. Has the Mayor of London directly linked himself to it? No.
Is the Mayor of London doing as bad a job as President Trump asserts?
Oh, shocking.
The Sharia law is only in civil cases, you know that.
I know it is.
Do you have concerns, then, that it would expand in some fashion?
I have concerns. There are people living in Britain who would like for their culture to become our culture, as opposed to the other way around. Nick, yes, of course.
But Jewish people have their own civil
yes, they do, and that's worked beautifully. And when have you ever seen the Jewish community trying to impose their will on us? They've had their own private observance, their own private way of doing things, but never any attempt to impose it upon everybody else. And the difference at the extreme ends of this, and you know this very, very well, is there are extreme ends of this that want us to become a country that follows their customs.
And where do you see that? Give me an example where that's been demonstrated recently. I'm assuming you're talking about...
I've met taxi drivers that have told me that. I've met taxi drivers that have told me, we will have Sharia law in Britain, you will live by our rules.
How do you respond when a taxi driver tells you that?
With shock.
And is that in London?
Horror.
Is that in London?
No, I actually first met that up in Buckinghamshire somewhere.
Right, because I know you visited northern cities as well, such as...
Yeah, I have.
Bradford, you have concerns there.
I have deep concerns.
So is this something you hear regularly? Because obviously the position you're in, you're an extremely recognisable politician. Yeah. People are going to give you the benefit of their views, some positive, some negative.
Well, they do.
Some positive, some negative. So people regularly say to you, we will have Sharia law whether you like it.
Not regularly, but it has happened over the years, and there are people who think their way of life is better than our way of life, and that we should adjust to them.
And how much does that drive your own political positioning?
I think it's very frightening. And I think what Trump was aiming at with his big pitch, that the West's going to hell, is it's in danger of losing its culture, its heritage, its identity. It's in danger of losing everything that it ever stood for.
Is Europe going to hell?
I think you can see it everywhere. Look at Stockholm. Look at parts of Germany. Look at what the mass importation of people who come from very different cultures has done to those cities.
Sarah in Birmingham, you're through to Nigel Farage. Go ahead.
Hi, Nigel.
Hi.
The UK support a two-state solution. However, the Israeli government, as well as Hamas, do not. Therefore, if your dream came true of becoming the next Prime Minister, what would your solution be for achieving peace between Palestine and the Middle East and for Israel?
I'm pleased you've asked that. You can't recognise a Palestinian state until you recognise some boundaries that it would have. And Gaza, that clearly isn't.
The Montevideo Convention, by the way, of 1933.
And actually, Sarah, there's a very interesting idea. There is a piece of land between the Red Sea and the Dead Sea. It is totally unoccupied desert. It's partly part of Jordan, but Jordan derives no benefit from it whatsoever. If you could designate that as a piece of land that could be turned into a homeland, a country, with major canals and irrigation linking to the sea, and if you had a group of Palestinian people who were not led by terrorists, who were not intent on the destruction of Israel and its people, then I think you could start to have a sensible debate about creating a Palestinian homeland. Right at the moment, and by the way, you can criticize Netanyahu, you can criticize Israel as much as you like, but you cannot recognize something that doesn't have a geography and is led by terrorists.
How would that barren land be generated? The cost of that would be phenomenal.
Listen, you could argue the cost would be phenomenal, but equally you could argue that the longer-term economic benefits that came from it would be phenomenal too. Think of places out of a desert like Palm Springs in America. You can do these things. But so geography is important, but equally you can't recognize a state, a group of people who are currently being led by Hamas, a terrorist organization intent on the destruction of Israel.
And then comes the most jaw-dropping part of the entire interview. A caller named Sarah asks Nigel Farage a direct question. If he were prime minister, how would he achieve peace between Israel and Palestine? Now at first, his answer sounds reasonable. He says you can't recognize a Palestinian state until it has clear borders. But then he suggests something that shocks the room, moving Palestinians into a stretch of desert between the Red Sea and the Dead Sea, land that actually belongs to another country. That's not a peace plan. That's a relocation plan. And to many listening, it sounded uncomfortably close to the idea of removing an entire people from their own homeland. Before 1947, Palestine existed on the map, a land, a history, a people. That story didn't vanish. It was rewritten. So when a political leader treats that history like an empty page, it's not diplomacy, it's detachment. Critics say this moment revealed a deep misunderstanding of the region's pain and humanity. Supporters call it thinking outside the box. But either way, suggesting to move millions into someone else's land isn't leadership, it's indifference, dressed up as strategy. So what do you think? Was this a genuine proposal? Or just another soundbite meant to stir headlines? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this breakdown insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real political commentary.